If you were to break my own personal writing journey down into the Save the Cat beats, my theme would be lack of confidence. That would be my character arc. My catalyst would be the first time I heard of NaNoWriMo as a young adult. The first time I got back into writing novels since I was in 6th grade. My Act 2 world would be all the things that I tried instead of writing, including YouTube with BookTube. And my all is lost would be the moment I gave NaNoWriMo one last try as a, if I can do it, then I can be a writer, and failed. But then I would have my epiphany in Dark Night of the Soul and realize that I really just needed to change my mindset and accept that my writing would be bad at first. This would lead me to the finale. I would gather my team by joining a writing group and storm the castle by actually finishing my draft. My closing image would be a scene of me brainstorming my next book, all excited and full of ideas. My love of writing finally giving me the fulfillment I had always dreamed of. Today, I am obviously talking about Save the Cat Writes a Novel by Jessica Brody. This is not the very first writing craft book that I read, but it is one of the first, and it was the first that I read about story structure. I knew the basics of the 3-act structure because of lessons from a screenplay, and I also knew some story structure because of things like the hero's journey. But I had never actually delved into the nitty-gritty of structure before, and it showed on my first draft. I actually read this after I had finished the first draft of my first novel. This is a book that is super popular on AuthorTube and just in the author community, and it's talked about a lot. And I know some people don't love it, and I know some people love it, and I happen to fall in the camp of people who love it. This is probably my top rated, most recommended writing craft book of the ones that I've read so far. I am biased because it was one of the first that I read, and so I think when you're first learning that there are certain books that just have so much value that you can't help but love them, and then other books that you read after that tend to kind of reiterate on what you've already learned, and so you don't get as much value out of them. And so that just keep in mind that bias of mine is there. But if you are looking for a craft book to read, this is definitely a great one. And if you're wondering if you should read Save the Cat Writes a Novel, you can stick around and find out in my review. So there are a couple things that I didn't love about this book. The first one is that it can be really overwhelming when you're first learning about it, and that because each beat has like its own unique name, but Save the Cat in general and Save the Cat beats, they don't follow the same typical names that a lot of other writers will refer to, but they're fairly generic, where Save the Cat has like kind of its own name to try and help you remember, but then because of that, it can be a little bit, when you're first learning about it, it can be kind of like, wait, what is that? I remember when I was first introduced to it, my husband actually read it before I did. I was still reading it, and he understood the beats better than I did at this point, and we were going through I had re-outlined my first draft just so I could see what was there at a glance, and we were going through to see which beats needed work or were missing or anything like that. And at the end I got really confused because I thought I had certain beats, like I thought I had an All Is Lost, but it was actually the Hightower Surprise and kind of thing. And so like I was mixing up the beats because I think that it takes a while to understand the beats very well. And so what I did was we watch a lot of Disney movies with our kids, or just movies in general. We would try to, my husband and I would try and figure out what each beat was together and talk about it and reference back the book if we weren't sure. Like, oh, well, I think it's this scene is this beat because in Save the Cat she says that this beat needs these things, kind of thing. And so it really helped me to learn the beats fairly well because of that, but I do think that it is overwhelming, partially because of the names. Something else that she does is at the very end of the book, she has some really useful information. She has the way that she outlines, and she has some questions with that. Like she has, where do I start? And then she gives the foundational beats that she starts with. And then she also has some different questions that she asks to find these beats and different things. And this is really useful information, but it's kind of in the back under a section that some people might not even read or ever get to. And I feel like it is important enough that it should be more prominent. There are also sections in here that I didn't find quite as useful, specifically the one about the blurb. I know some people really like that section, but I actually didn't love the way that she sets up book blurbs. I think it's missing some information. I mean, I guess it probably works because she's a really successful author and she's helped other people be successful authors, but I didn't find it personally quite as useful as some other people have. And then the last thing, it actually kind of ties in with the first one a little bit, but when I go through and tell you kind of what's in the book, one section that she talks about is genres, but she doesn't mean genres like mystery, fantasy, whatever. She's talking more about the bones of the book. And so I have two issues with this section. And the first is that she calls them genres, which is confusing because when you say genre, people are automatically going to think, oh, fantasy, contemporary, sci-fi. They are not going to think what she's talking about. And I think that it would have been better to come up with a different name for them that was a better description of what they actually are. And then the second thing is, while I find the actual genres that she talks about very useful, and I think that it's important to understand what genre your book is, using the term that she uses, the actual names of each genre, they're similar to the beats, where the names are meant to help you remember them, but because they're just kind of, some of them, I feel like the link between the two is a little bit thin, and so then I have a hard time remembering. So some of them I remember really easily, like Buddy Love, I remember really, really easily. You see Buddy Love and I'm like, oh yeah, I know what that is. But some of them took a while to remember, like Dude with a Problem. I remember that one now, but when we were first learning about it, I didn't remember, it wasn't intuitive to me as we've talked about it more, because that is one that comes up a lot, especially outside of novels, like for, public speakers and stuff. A lot of times they'll use Dude with a Problem as a story to hook people in, that kind of thing. And so Dude with a Problem, I remember now, but like Institutionalized, I think is one, Superhero, like they're just not intuitive. Like Harry Potter falls under superhero, and that's not intuitive to me because I haven't looked through the genres in a long time. When you say that, I'm actually not sure what that one actually specifically is. And so I think that the names, even though they tried to make them memorable, it's hard. It feels like it takes a lot of time or an effort in order for you to connect the two. And once you do, you'll probably remember them because the names are memorable, but there's that. Those are the main things that I didn't love about the novel. And of course there's something in every single book that you're not just gonna love, but they were pretty minor for me. Overall, the experience was very useful and good for me. Now I'm gonna kind of talk about what is inside the book and the things that I really like about it. So one of the things that I love is that she starts off the novel not talking about the beats or structure, but talking about your character and their flaw and their character arc and the theme that you need to have for them. And I think that that's really vital, because your theme is going to be foundational for every single beat, and every single beat is going to serve to push your character arc along. And so knowing your character arc is really important, and I think it shows that she understands that by putting it forefront in the book, and then that helps us as the reader to go, okay, we really need to figure this out before I actually start writing. Another thing that I love about the book is that the writing style. I know it's not everyone's favorite, but I really enjoy it. I think that she is funny. She's a good storyteller. She makes it very accessible so that pretty much anyone could pick up the book and kind of get sucked into it and learn from it. And also stay interested, because there are some writing craft books that I have found very helpful, but the writing style was either really grating on me or really boring. And this was neither for me. I really enjoyed her voice as an author, and I actually want to go read more of her, like some of her novels, because I think that it would be fun because I like her writing style. And then she breaks down the beats in a very useful way. So she starts off, when she's breaking down the beats, she first gives you kind of an overview, and I'm going to see if I can find it here real fast. So she gives kind of an overview first of what each beat is and what percentage it is. And it's just a quick little paragraph to let you know kind of what it is. But then later, not too much later, just a couple pages later, she dives deeper into them and then talks about them full on. So if you wanted to, for example, if you're reading the book, you get an overview so then you can start understanding it. Then she delves deeper into it so that you can understand it even better. But then it's really useful if you're coming back just to review. If you're like, man, I don't remember what the beast story is supposed to be, you can come and you can read just the little paragraph instead of having to read a whole page about the beast story. She makes it really useful, not just for learning, but for coming back and referencing, and I found that to be really useful. And she has this little breakdown of kind of what percentage it should be, and she talks about word count and stuff here in this really nice visual. And then at the very end she also has a visual, I'll see if I can find it, that is really useful, and I reference this all the time. Actually, last night at writing group, we were not sure how many scenes were in the Dig Down Deep and stuff, and so we actually came and referenced this and looked at it just to see. And it's just this little chart that's really visual, so you can just come and you can, when this is really useful too for when you're outlining. For me, because what I did for outlining is I broke down, I figured out what each beat was going to be, and then I came and I broke it down into scenes kind of according to this visual, so I could just really easily see, okay, opening image is just one scene, but the debate's going to be multiple scenes, so then I could put lots of scenes in there as I was filling out my outline. Or if you just want a quick reference, if you just want to see real quick, it's a really useful visual. And so it has a lot of really good tools in here for referencing later on as you are using it to actually write your novel. And again, even though the names of the beats might be a little bit harder to learn, there's a steeper learning curve, I love the names of the beats, especially like Dark Night of the Soul, like that. I'm never gonna forget the name of that. You know, where like something like plot point 1, plot point 3, plot point 5, that's gonna be really hard to keep track of in my head unless I know it really well. Where Dark Night of the Soul or All Is Lost, they're more intuitive and they are very memorable, and I love how memorable they are compared to some of the more generic story structures out there. And then of course the examples, every craft book has different examples that they use, and some do better than others, and I think that she does a fantastic job using examples. She has a wide range of books that she uses, so that it's fairly certain that you're going to come across at least a couple that you are familiar with. She gives spoiler warnings, she gives small examples at different points in the genres. She goes really in depth to help you to understand what the genre really is and give you a real example of it. They're also from books, which is really nice because a lot of craft books, especially if you read a wide variety of craft books, and some of them come from like screenplay craft books where they're teaching people how to write screenplays, and then those are obviously going to use movie examples, and movie examples are so easy to find. Like, we just watch movies so often because they're so quick, and books are a lot harder to get through, it takes a lot longer, and so the fact that she has so many examples from books is really nice. So should you read this book? If you are an absolute beginner, then yes, you should absolutely read this book. If you have a story structure that you find really useful, then this is not an absolute must read for you. If you already understand story structure, if you've gotten it from other places, then you might not need this book. There could be things in here that she talks about that could be useful to you because of the way that she breaks down each beat, and so I wouldn't say that it would be one that you should skip. I also don't know for sure, but I think because of how the examples she uses and the way that she breaks it down so you could skim fairly easily over things that you're already familiar with, I don't think it would be too hard to get through, even if it was slightly repetitive. If you haven't really learned much about story structure, if all you've done is, listen to some YouTube videos, or about things like the hero's journey, then this is one that is going to be really useful to you, because it really breaks down each act in a way that helps you to understand why stories do what they do and what your story should be doing. And this is one that I will reference when I'm struggling with a certain section, or I'm not sure what to fill in with my outline or something. Like if I'm not sure what to do with, for example, when I outlined my first novel, I realized that I was missing a lot of the Act 2. I didn't have very much in Act 2, and I was like, I don't know what to put there. So I went back to the purpose of the different beats in Act 2. I was able to come into the book and say, okay, so Act 2, what is it supposed to be doing? Okay, well, one of the things is fixing their problems in the wrong way. So then I was like, okay, well, how would she try and fix her problem or her character arc in the wrong way, in an external way? And I was able to come up with ideas that then I was able to write really good scenes or compelling scenes throughout my Act 2 that I just had no idea where to go before that. And so it helps to give direction in that way. And that's also why I haven't read a lot of other structure books. I don't know exactly what they talk about, but the ones that I have, I feel like Save the Cat has some things in her structure where she gives kind of the reason behind, like the purpose behind each beat, in a way that some other story structure books haven't. And so that's why it could be useful to read this book even if you are already familiar with story structure. You could also go check out my video. I do break down each beat and kind of the purpose behind each one if you want to just kind of an overview, if you feel like you know story structure fairly well, or if you want to get an idea of what's going to be inside the book. So yeah, let me know in the comments below if you have read Save the Cat Writes a Novel. I know it's a really popular one, so a lot of people have. Or if you haven't, let me know what your favorite writing craft book is, or what kind of story structure you use, or do you not use story structure. I know that is one of the one reason that people don't love Save the Cat is just because they are against story structure in general. I think it's really useful to know story structure, not as a you have to do it this way. For example, in her breakdown, she has the debate scene as multiple scenes. In My Rapunzel, it's one scene. You can break the rules if you feel like that's what works for your book, and you definitely don't need to follow everything exactly. You don't need it to be formulaic necessarily, but I do think that story structure will help to compel your readers to enjoy your book more. Anyway, so yeah, let me know that in the comments below, your favorite writing craft book or what you thought of Save the Cat. And if you want to follow my reading journey, you can go over to Goodreads. I do leave a review there for every book that I read. And you can also follow my Instagram where I share my favorite books and also a lot more about my writing journey. And if you like this video, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe for lots of reading and writing content. And thank you so much for watching my video. I will see you in the next one.